I'm late again, but I think let's just make it a ritual. Whenever we are late, we have a killer YT session. At least that is what I want to believe. And as it is rightly said, all good things take time. So I'm sure you can find it with all of these reasonings of mine. You can definitely find it in your heart to be able to let the 5 minutes of delay slide. A very good evening once again to all of you. I cannot begin the session without a confirmation as to my audibility and visibility. So if you could please very quickly write in the chat box as to whether I am audible and visible, both of it. And if that is an uptick, we will begin with what we have for today. Because today, again, I've come up with a very roaring and a very important issue that I think it's necessary for us to be able to analyze. But then I would need a heads up. So of course, if I could just have that. Okay. All right, all clear. Everything seems to be on point. And with that, let us begin. So I'm going to keep it very short today, very crisp. It's not going to be very long. It's because what I have is all data based, and data's numbers don't lie. So while all things said and done, and various people can come and tell you that this is how the tendency has to be, this is how the strategy has to be, the first and the most important thing is for us to be able to understand how and what CLAT has been doing in the past couple of years. Why does it become important? Because the moment you're able to anticipate somebody's mentality, it becomes easier for you to prepare, because now you will be a step ahead of them in terms of planning. Once you know that, okay, these are the kinds of things wherein, we will really have to work hard, pull up our socks, it becomes by default a very easy peasy lemon squeezy sort of a strategy, which is why I thought the best is that we talk and we see what has been the transition in the paper kis type se change hua hai in the past couple of years, what is the expectation of the paper with us, and what is our expectation from the paper as well. Right? Maybe after having this little chat that we do tonight, you might want to overhaul your strategy or maybe make some tweaks onto your existing strategy so that you can fit to the custom requirement of what CLAT is supposed to be. Now, if other than CLAT you're preparing for any of the other examinations, please make sure that you do a 5-year analysis of it. And when I say analysis, it just doesn't have to be solving the PYPs. It also has to include the news around it. So in today's YT, I will also be taking into account the last year's fiasco that happened. Last year as in the last CLAT examination fiasco. I'm sure everybody knows of it with the wrong questions and all things said there. How did the Supreme Court react to it? What were, the stages of the trials that happened? You all know, I'm sure, as curious aspirants, you must be knowing it at the back of your head. But then I want to know, because that also is going to be a very important benchmark for us to predict what is going to happen next. So please make sure that you focus on the detailing. Just one disclaimer that I'd like to give you, and that is all of this data that I have been able to collate for today's YT is only speculative. Now, again, nobody ever gives us a clear-cut data. So while I've done a lot of recce along a lot of websites to be able to find the most accurate, every website had, or everywhere, wherever I Googled, I had different information. So what I've done is I've taken out a reasonable score. I have taken out bandwidths. The data that, of course, I could procure, those are on point. But for the other ones, please understand they are not to the point, or they are not what you need. So if I say that you need 70 score, it doesn't mean it has to be 70. We're talking a bandwidth of 70. While I will keep emphasizing on it, but I just wanted to put it out that in case you don't overhear, you tend to skip onto that part. You know it in the initial bit itself that whatever we are going to talk is going to be a relative figure. It is not going to be exact. But relative is as close as it being appropriate, as close as being true. So with that, let us begin with what we have. So what is going to be our agenda? Things that we are going to be discussing today are going to begin with. First is going to be the learnings that we are going to be having from the past 5 years of CLAT, which is going to be from 2020 to 2024 until the last year paper that we have. We're going to talk about the trends. We're going to talk about the insights, and of course, towards the end, I would have some advices that I would like to give the 26 aspirants, because these are going to be the kind of things that you will have to really brace up for. So beginning with Of course, we are going to do a deep dive into the 5 years of the CLAT evolution. Legacy समझेंगे CLAT की क्या रही है, changes, the chaos, the cutoffs, and the most importantly, how do we understand or how do we subtly read the clues that we identify from these hidden past patterns that we have. Now, whether you be in class 12th or you be a dropper or you're just getting started, please understand this is very important information because an analysis of the previous years gives us a lot of, it helps us troubleshoot a lot of problems that we might just be facing currently. In fact, it also tells us कि यार इस साल ये तो important है ही है, और अगर ये important है ही तो उसमें तो कोई bargain ही नहीं है ना, वो चीज तो होनी ही होनी है, right? So we're going to be understanding how the paper pattern transformed over all these years, why some sections got harder and some disappeared altogether, which NLUs rose and fell in preference. So yes, I will also be picking the top 5 hierarchy of the NLUs and what the preference list is going to be. The fiasco that happened last year, of course, and what it means for your paper. And of course, the 26 that is likely to, what is it going to likely test you on. So with this, we will have a perfect cheat sheet as to what CLAT is going to be all about. Now, beginning with, let's take an overview, a yearly overview, year on year overview लेते हैं कि CLAT का pattern किस किस तरीके से change किया है. सबसे बड़ा evolution जो हुआ है, that has been the paper itself. If you would have seen the earlier CLAT papers were not about the comprehension. While comprehension was of course a mandatory part of the preparation, there was more. We had vocabulary for English, say, for example, we had vocabulary. We had grammar playing a very important role. We had parajumbles, we had paracompletions, we had summaries, we had whatnot. So English was a very power-packed section altogether. And which is why the syllabus of English also got larger. It got lengthier. So 2 months of practice might not serve our goals. Likewise, CR was a combination of all things. While what we do critical reasoning now was only a part. Say a handful of questions belong to critical reasoning and those were also paragraph based and not passage based. But over the years what has happened is बाकी सारी चीजें obliterate हो गई है, बस इतनी ही बची है. So things have changed. And why has it changed? It's very important for you to know. All this time, CLAT was okay with conducting the way it was. But seeing the kind of backlog that we have in our judiciary, it got very important, and when they actually troubleshooted the problem, they realized that maximum delays जो होते हैं, maximum misjudgments जो होते हैं, वो कब होते हैं? जब सामने वाला समझ ही नहीं पा रहा होता है as to what the intent and what is it that the court is trying to say. Which is why the consortium, of course, they are a cloud of some very knowledgeable people. They decided that we'll have to change and we will have to really hold on to the candidates and check their comprehension power. Because for as long as those things, those two traits, which I can't teach you in the law school, अगर आपके पास ये दो traits है, that is reading का and समझ लेने का, बाकी मुझे जो भी चाहिए, and of course the kind of temperament that you need to be a lawyer, अगर इतनी चीजें आपके पास intact है, बाकी तो law school में सिखा देंगे. But if you don't come with this, then it's going to be very difficult for me, because law is all about reading, law is all about understanding, law is all about understanding from the inferences. But if you don't understand my insinuations, my hints, my verdict, my dictum, what is the whole point of you being a lawyer? You're simply, doing a wild goose chase. You're chasing, running around in circles is how we say. Which is why the paper overhauled and they understood कि नहीं यार इसमें मेरे को जरूरी हो गया है अब कि मैं बच्चों की comprehension test करूं. Which is why the change happened. So while the fundamental, the reason, their reason at heart remains this, but of course they had to align this, the requirement to suiting the pattern of the paper as well. And which is why nowadays what you see is the kind of paper which is entirely passage based, because they just want to check your reading and your comprehension power irrespective of which scenario it be. अगर आप उसमें अच्छे से perform कर रहे हो, बाकी तो जितने भी trade tricks होते हैं, they are of course going to be teaching you in the law school altogether. Now let's begin with, if you see the 2019 pattern back then, 200 questions, 2 hours, offline होता था, traditional 5 sections होते थे, MCQ होता था, static GK बहुत prominent थी उस time, and vocab and of course logic. Back in 150 हुआ वो, 2 घंटे का हुआ. उन लोग ने ट्राई किया कि चलो ऑनलाइन देखते हैं इसको कैसे होता है. Longer RCs and legal caselets made a introduction. 21 में 150 for 2 hours offline. They understood this is not happening, हमें offline ही जाना पड़ेगा. Reading और intense हुई, रीजनिंग ज्यादा प्रोमिनेंट हो गई वर्सेस रोट लर्निंग. तो इसके पहले तक लर्निंग, आई मीन इफ यू हैड द काइंड ऑफ acumen wherein you can learn, it used to make sense. But then reasoning became more prominent. So अब आपका रट्टा मारना was not as important as what it was previously. Jump on to 22, 150 for 2 hours offline हुआ. They continued the focus on comprehension altogether. 23 में again 150 2 hours offline, similar to 22, but अभी time crunch, that is lengthier. And back in 24 it was 120 for 2 hours offline, fewer questions, and English had no vocab in close test. No vocabulary whatsoever. Logical got tough, quants got compact. So what happened? From the memory game to comprehension race. Memory से हम लोग गए comprehension पे समझने के लिए how exactly the passages tend to be. Section wise अगर English का हम लोग देखेंगे, so they started with 30 questions including vocab to what we have now, which is 24 questions जो सारे comprehension है, सबके सब reading comprehension. जीके में स्टैटिक मिक्स से अब हम लोग आ चुके हैं फुल्ली पैसेज बेस पे, पूरा का पूरा प्रोमिनेंट एंड डोमिनेंट पैसेज बेस हो गया है. लीगल कंसिस्टेंट सिनेरियो बेस्ड केसलेट्स, लीगल में बहुत ज्यादा चेंज उन लोगों ने किया नहीं है. they've stayed on to the same pattern and the same psyche that they've expected. लॉजिकल रिड्यूस क्वेश्चन, टफर इन्फ्रेंसेस 24 पे आ गए हैं. अब हम लोग वापस सीआर में भी सिंगल लाइन ऑफ क्वेश्चंस पूरे हट चुके हैं. एंड नाउ दे हैव बिकम वेरी इन्फ्रेंस बेस्ड. अजम्पशन पूछेंगे, स्ट्रेंथन पूछेंगे, वीकेंड पूछेंगे. तो जितने सीआर के क्वेश्चंस आइसोलेटेड थे, अब वो बहुत ज्यादा रैम्पेंट हो गए हैं क्वेश्चंस में. क्वांट्स 15 से अब हम 12 नंबर पे आ गए हैं. देयर जस्ट 12 क्वेश्चंस, ऑल केसलेट बेस्ड. सो यू आर गोइंग टू गेट 2 caselets, and in that 6 questions each is how you have to go ahead and solve it. Now, overly review just what we read. I think all of this has been discussed, but here is where we have to simply focus on. Reading intense होना चालू हुई 21 से 2021 से, and of course continued focus on comprehension हुआ until the fact that today it is all about just the reading comprehensions only. Getting on to the next, a section wise yearly trend समझते हैं. So 5 years, the past 5 years, broken it down into question type to be able to see. So the 5 sections remain the same. They've not changed, but what has changed is the content in it. English, they started with a mix of short passages. छोटे पैसेज रहते थे, बहुत लंबे नहीं होते थे. Moderate difficulty होती थी, occasional vocabulary इधर उधर से आ जाती थी. Then जीके में 30 मिक्स ऑफ स्टैटिक होता था, करंट अफेयर्स होता था, जो डिफिकल्टी थी मॉडरेट टू डिफिकल्ट. लीगल हेवी ऑन लीगल प्रिंसिपल्स एंड फैक्ट. सो फॉर दैट, आई मीन बैक देन लीगल नॉलेज हैड टू बी वेरी थॉरो. लॉजिकल, द हाईएस्ट डेविएट, पजल्स, लॉजिकल सब कुछ रहता था. एंड 15 बेसिक अरिथमेटिक एंड डेटा के क्वेश्चंस रहते थे. लेट्स गेट टू 21. वर्ड पैसेजेस, इन्फ्रेंस फोकस. वी चेंज्ड 450 वर्ड्स के पैसेजेस आना चालू हुए. पैसेज लेंथ बढ़ी. एंड क्वेश्चंस कैसे निकले? क्वेश्चंस अब इन्फ्रेंशियल जाने लगे ज्यादा. गेटिंग ऑन टू जीके, पैसेज हेवी हो गए. करंट अफेयर्स गॉट स्टार्टेड डोमिनेटिंग. स्टैटिक टुक अ बीट. स्टैटिक ने कम किया अपना. हाइपोथेटिकल लीगल सिनेरियोज स्टार्टेड इन 21. इसके पहले तक एक्चुअल में लगता था रिलेटेबल है, फेमिलियर है. यहाँ पे हाइपोथेटिकल होना, अगर ये हुआ तो क्या होगा, अगर ऐसा हुआ तो क्या होगा. दैट्स वेयर दैट लीगल रीजनिंग का the googly came in from there. Reduced from inference, I mean reduced from 45, of course. Inference heavy ये लोग वापस CR में, logical में जाने लगे. And maths got easy. So 21 का specifically में maths बहुत easy था. 22 में deeper comprehension, elimination focus. Obviously the comprehensions were more deeper, more entangled, but if you ever pick up the 22 का paper, you're going to see that elimination was easy. Negation technique जो बोलते हैं ना, this was something that could have been employed. Balanced आया. Then in 22 का पेपर में जो जीके था वो balanced था. It was a mixture of both static and current. Consistent caselet आए, but 22 में legal became reasoning heavy. So it started from principal fact, moved on to hypothetical scenarios, and then got to the reasoning. Reasoning मतलब scenarios भी easy, सब कुछ easy, but अब reasoning बहुत narrow देंगे. दो yes का explanation जो होगा, अभी explanation को पकड़ो क्या है. So now again, your brain, every year on year, what has happened is the kind of information that has been given, and the brain needs to, of course, be working faster. मॉडरेट कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी थी लॉजिकल में, मॉडरेट टू डिफिकल्ट आया था क्वांट्स। 23 के पेपर में मॉडरेट टू डिफिकल्ट लॉन्गर पैसेजेस थे, लेंदी हो गया यहाँ पे। देन वी हैड मॉडरेट टू डिफिकल्ट ब्रॉडर सीए, अगेन जीके वाज नॉट वेरी इजी, ब्रेथ में बहुत बढ़ गया था। सो हियर इन बैक इन 23 व्हाट हैड हैपेंड वाज जीके सुपरफिशियल थी बट वास्ट बहुत थी। They asked from things you couldn't think of. So topic wise, so GK is always breadth and of course the depth of it. Sometimes what happens is बहुत popular topics पूछते हैं but उसमें बहुत in depth पूछते हैं। कभी कभी they go in terms of number. They will pick up a trivial issue but superficial information. So this is what it means, when it says that got lengthier, which means that ask superficial, कुछ इतना नहीं था जो नहीं आता होगा, but of course what had happened was they were from the topics which one didn't even expect that, okay, this is what is going to be. Again, legal was heavy. Then came the tricks in logical. They started playing with the options. They started tricking you with what it is. While you're thinking one thing, logical wanted to put another option to the fore. Maths again was difficult back in 23. अब 24 में देखते हैं, 24 क्वेश्चन ओनली कॉम्प्रिहेंशन, कोई वोकैबुलरी नहीं, कोई क्लोज टेस्ट नहीं, कुछ भी नहीं, 4 पैसेजेस थे, 6 क्वेश्चन थे। लीगल अगेन मॉडरेट आई थी, सॉरी जीके मॉडरेट आई थी 28 क्वेश्चन की। 32 वर व्हाट लीगल वाज, समथिंग दैट वी आर स्टिकिंग टू इवन नाउ, मॉडरेट सिनेरियो बेस्ड, not hypothetical. They had scenarios which seemed like, okay, these look like normal scenarios. And then of course the CR got difficult in spots. So spots का मतलब क्या होता है, बहुत ही erratic हो गई CR। अगर एक पैसेज इजी है या एक पैसेज में 2 क्वेश्चन इजी है तो बचे हुए 2 क्वेश्चन टफ है। So you see, you start with it, oh the passage so easy, yay, and then you get onto the question like, what has happened here? And then one passage will again come which is so easy, you'll be redeemed of the overconfidence, and then you'll fall flat. This is what is called being difficult in spots. They went crazy with the graph there, right? And of course DI was difficult. So this is how it was until 24. अब difficulty and strategy insights एक बार देखते हैं। English में vocabulary to inference change हुआ है, इसलिए आपको क्या करना है guys, you have to start reading deeply. Deeply. Don't read a lot, read deep. You get the difference there? When you read something, try to understand what is the inference here. Try to read between the lines. Try to identify all the ideas जो unsaid है, वो क्या है. CA facts and passages don't memorize. So gone were the days when you have to memorize. In fact, अगर आपने पिछले साल का and the year before that का आपने CLAT का पेपर देखा होगा ना, people when they came out, they were frustrated. You know why? Because they were mugging up. While they were mugging up, the information were factually present. But GK में हमारा क्या होता है, modus operandi, हमें लगता है कि हमें याद होनी चाहिए वो information. But they were all in the passage. But we never give time to the passage because हमारे लिए तो GK 12 मिनट में खत्म होना है ना, और 12 मिनट में passage कैसे पढ़ेंगे वो भी इतने सारे. So here you have to understand, while memorizing is important because you never know इस बार CLAT क्या करेगा. But not blindly, right? Focus, not blindly. Legal, fact, principle, logic is very important. Please get your theories right. It will come in handy. Logical, strength and weaken assumption पे focus करो, but obviously paradox है अपना, evaluate है, summary है, inference है, right? All of these of course need to be taken up, and of course flaw. So इनको भी करना तो पड़ेगा, ऐसा नहीं है, but just focus on all of these for that matter. In fact, क्वांट में accuracy charts, ratio, caselets, please make sure accuracy तो आप maintain कर ही रहे हो, and that you are able to do all of the other things as well. Now, cutoff trend जो रहा है again, and the NLU preferences. Please understand guys, these are reasonable cutoffs. Reasonable. I am trying to say the bottom and sometimes the top also. That's how. So अगर इतने में आया, you have a very decent chance. So 154 back in 19. 20 में 105, 21 में 107, 22 98, 23 80 and 24 80 to 85. With this, you will fall within the bracket of the NLUs. Now your preparation and strategy will decide which NLU. Right? So if I say कि देखो तुम 80 के ऊपर ले आओ या 85 के ऊपर ले आओ, तुम्हें NLU तो मिल रहा है. कौन सा एनएलयू, दैट मैटर्स. इसमें बैंगलोर नहीं मिल रहा है, बैंगलोर आपको मिलेगा अब इससे पुश करने में. So please understand, bandwidths are different, marks are different, and these are all average. Top NLUs की hierarchy क्या होती है? NLS IU, Bangalore, Hyderabad. You then have NUJS, NLUJ, GNLU, RMNLU. These are the most preferred, top rated. How have we come to this? By the preferences of the children. When they fill, you get a choice. You get your choice to be able to put into the college. That is what you're going to be realizing. Please note, NLU Delhi ALET से ही होता है. We all by now know what ALET is. If you want to get into NLU Delhi, I will do a past trend of NLU Delhi so that you know what to expect. But of course, वो सिर्फ ALET से ही होता है, वो और किसी examination से नहीं होता है. ALET is different from CLAT. Maybe, you know, the parents are the same. That is, the intent of the paper is the same, but the performer is, they're not, they're like, you know, rival siblings, to put it easily. Okay, now, the kind of controversy that happened last year and what has been the Supreme Court around it. So wrong questions थे, flawed answer की थी, बहुत लोगों को पता था ये सारी चीजें. हाई कोर्ट दिल्ली ने तो बोला 17 क्वेश्चन ड्रॉप करो, बट ऑफ कोर्स सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि बहुत ही कैजुअल कंडक्ट किया है एनएलएस, आई मीन कंसोर्शियम ने. लैक्स ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स हैव बीन अफेक्टेड बाय दिस. अल्टीमेटली क्या हुआ? फाइनल रैंक्स जो थी वो रिवाइज हुई. The marks have just come. In fact, the ranks have just come and the counselings have recently gotten over. SC ने क्या कोट किया था? Why not under a professional body like the NTA? तो उसने बहुत स्लैम किया था कंसोर्शियम को, because of course the consortium is a body which is representing a lot of students and a lot of expectations. So they can't really be flouting like that. Now with this, what has happened is, here is the important part. What has happened is, trust issues obviously हुए हैं. Now students are thinking, is it even worth it? There's been a legal burden, of course, delays, and ultimately हम पे क्या impact हुआ है? Merit list revise होके लेट आई, काउंसलिंग डिले हुई, कंसोर्शियम की credibility took a hit. Is the consortium worth, is the consortium capable of being able to make a paper or not? That is what became questionable. So now, what do we understand from this? You have to know that this year, there's a likelihood that the paper might be difficult. See, human mind is very twisted. वो आपको बुद्धू अभी भी बना सकते हैं. बहुत लोग समझेंगे कि इस बार पेपर फिर से हम इजी टफ आएगा क्योंकि इतना सारा कुछ हुआ है, चलो इजी दे देते हैं. अनएक्सपेक्टेड. प्लीज बी रेडी बिकॉज क्लैट इज नथिंग बट अ गेम ऑफ अनएक्सपेक्टेड. Expect what you can't think. That is what the rule says. But the consortium has to live up to a reputation right now, and it has really been slammed. So which means, I mean, human psyche just simply says that अगर इतना डांट पड़ा है और इतना reprimand हुआ है, इतना criticism हुआ है, तो कुछ तो करेंगे ना to be able to redeem themselves. So there's a very likely chance that even if the whole paper is not tough, there will be tougher ones. So please gear up. It's not going to be as easy as what it was going to be the last. And what are going to be our learnings from all of this? We have to learn to stay calm under pressure, right? Questions देख रहे हो, गलत आंसर हो रहे हैं, but you have to stay okay. Expect errors, but don't panic. Even this year, if you see that okay, एक question आ गया, question में एक misprint हो गया, and आपको उसका आंसर नहीं आ रहा है, options में नहीं, panic मत करो, it is okay. सीख लिया है ना हमने कि पिछले, और हर साल होता है. Every year there are questions that are wrong. It is okay. So you don't have to panic if something like that happens. Mark smartly, don't over attempt. ये नहीं कि जो गलत है उसको भी जबरदस्ती आंसर ऑप्शन लाके कर दिया. If you believe that there's an error, please be smart. Don't just over attempt for the joy of it. Practice mocks under error prone conditions. Your real skill is adapting. Make sure that you practice, you keep simulating environments. Something that I keep saying in most of my YTs. The more you simulate, the better you get prepared to what sort of a scenario is likely to happen. Now, what should we be expecting? Again, 2 घंटे का पेपर होगा, 5 सेक्शन होंगे आपके पास. Please expect no grammar or vocabulary. Does that mean you have to stop studying? No. Okay, expect, okay? There can always be one question. But vocabulary and grammar को पढ़ना छोड़ दे, नहीं, ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता ना. क्योंकि आप कॉम्प्रिहेंशन कैसे समझोगे जब तक आपको ये दोनों चीजें नहीं समझ में आएंगी. But from how we are expecting, there are not going to be a lot of questions, or there might just be a term with a contextual meaning, or maybe an idiomatic expression. Those things always. Reading comprehension style is going to continue. Please expect tough legal and logical. Quants will be tricky. Quants, they're going to try and trap you, but legal and CR is going to be tough. Tough as in like really dimag hilane wali hogi. It is not going to be, they're not going to have giveaway options like they generally tend to be. CLAT ka bhi stake pe hai reputation, right? So you have to understand that bit. So what do we understand from all of this? Please make sure that you read about 4 to 5 passages daily. Solve them. Prioritize legal and logical. There are two very important sections. हम लोग ने हमेशा इस चीज पे बात किया है. हमारे पास दो sections होते हैं, right? We have the reading and then we have the non-reading sections. Reading section में अपने आते हैं English, CR, legal. Non-reading में अपने आते हैं DI और GK, right? DI में हमारे पास होते हैं 12, GK में होते हैं 28. यहाँ आया 24, 24 and 32. In total, this makes for 120. Now, please understand, इनके बिना CLAT नहीं solve होगा और इनके बिना CLAT नहीं निकलेगा. So if you think, और अगर आपको लगता है कि चलो GK छोड़ देते हैं या कुछ भी छोड़ देते हैं, किसी भी एक सेक्शन को छोड़ के CLAT नहीं निकलेगा, except for DI. DI का वेटेज कम है, तो फिर भी, बट अगर आपने DI का एक भी क्वेश्चन नहीं किया तो भी आपको, you have to understand your score has to be out of 108, maybe your accuracy has to be, you can only afford to have 2 or 3 questions wrong. इतनी अमेजिंग एक्यूरेसी तो किसी की हो ही नहीं सकती ना. ऐसा होता तो 120 पे 120 आता पिछले साल का बच्चा, नहीं आया ना, हो ही नहीं सकता. That's not possible. So no section, leaving no section will help, and especially no, आप 24 क्वेश्चन अगर 120 में से 24 ही छोड़ दे तो आपका अटेम्प्ट रेट देखो कितना हो रहा है. So you can't leave anything. You have to make sure that you're better and you're good. In fact, you're best in all of the sections. And especially, of course, what are going to be legal and logical, they carry a lot. See, English is something wherein अगर आप बहुत अच्छे भी नहीं होगे तो भी आपका 2 पैसे 3 पैसे तो निकलेगा. चलो एक छोड़ दो, समझ में आता है. But you can't afford to leave these two. If you leave either of them, आप 32 नंबर या आप 24 नंबर थोड़ी छोड़ सकते हो. 120 से अटेम्प्ट क्या किया फिर? और इनके बिना, विदाउट द नॉन रीडिंग सेक्शंस, आपका CLAT नहीं निकलेगा. हर सेक्शन बहुत ब्यूटिफुली मैनेज्ड है. It's like a jigsaw that comes together only when you attempt all of the sections. Please make sure that you begin. So if you are running away from CR, now is the time to stop, evaluate, and of course start getting better with how things are, right? So this was it. This was what the expectancy has been. We've talked about how the paper has changed and how and which section specifically, took off, and how a lot of other components disappeared altogether and now they've all become very passage heavy. So please make sure that these should be your very, these should be your benchmarks from where you have to begin your preparation. So unexpected questions, yes. Level of difficulty, difficult, yes. Moderate to difficult, I will not prepare for moderate, I will prepare for difficult. If I prepare for difficult, moderate अपने आप आ जाएगा. Do you think I can leave either of the sections? No. You have to be attempting all of the sections. If you feel a good idea is, किसी भी पिछले साल को छोड़ के उसके किसी भी पहले के साल का कोई भी एक TYP उठा लो. Solve करो just to be able to see how do you understand, their sense of writing, their style, the way the articulation is being done, so on and so forth. Practice on every section, and please be mindful about GK. And I think with that, all what you have to do is, don't study for the CLAT examination as it was back in 22. You have to be upbeat. You have to, be with the trend. You don't fear the CLAT, the last year's CLAT that has happened. Please understand, guys, it's okay. Whatever happened. Mistakes can happen. Human error बहुत major हुआ, बहुत blunders हुए. इस साल भी हो सकता है, right? But it will, at the end of the day, it's always the truth that is going to triumph. So it is okay. Everything will be put to clarity, but don't lose hope and don't begin to panic. And prepare for the 26 with reasoning, reading, and a very logical paper to be expecting. So this was me trying to tell you what the past 5 years have for us and what is it that we should begin with. I mean, where should our start be? Unfortunately, our start cannot be from basic this time. Our start will have to be from a level of moderate, and then scaling up to being difficult. Earlier, I would have told you you can probably start from easy to being moderate, but that ship has already sailed because with all things that have happened, CLAT's not going to take it. I mean, the consortium is not going to take it easy this time. I hope this has given you some truth bombs. It's given you a reality check on where you are and how much more do you have to, go ahead with. So do an analysis and find out if you are comfortable with easier passages. Now is the time to amp up the challenge because difficult तो आएगा ना और या prepare difficult के लिए करोगे सब हो जाएगा but easy के लिए करोगे तो कुछ भी नहीं हो पाएगा सिर्फ easy ही हो पाएगा अब बच्चे 2 साल में उसने इतने easy दिए हैं कि इस साल लग नहीं रहा है कि वो easy होने वाला है. All right, guys, that's it. That's about it from me. I know रात तो खराब करी थी नींद भी नहीं आने वाली है शायद इतना सोच के but it's okay. I am not here to scare you. I'm only here to tell you that this is how the paper is going to be and just expect the unexpected and probably with that motto you can always be prepared. However you know how things are with every examination there's always an aspect of fate, destiny, luck, as you may call it, right? That plays a very important role. So we leave things to that, but what we have in our hands is preparation, and preparation, I think, is what we can obviously press the pedal on. So just get up, get onto it. Don't bunk on any of the sections, and I'm sure you're going to pass with flying colors. Thank you so much, everybody. Do let me know if this has been of any help. Please do share it with other like-minded friends who have also been struggling and that they want some clarity around it. Please do write in the comment box if there's any other topic that you want me to make a video around. Well, I do have a couple of comments and I'm working around those. But of course, it's always great to know, that you're looking forward to some more clarity and some more topics that have been bothering you. Have a peaceful night, please. This was not meant to scare you. This was just, to be able to let you know that things change and there's been very slight moderation while superficially it might not look so, but एक section थोड़ा सा भी जब twist या turn होता है तो वो पूरे paper पे impact करता है. It's called the domino effect. It ripples onto the other sections and that is what we just want to be comfortable with. Thank you so much, everybody.